Now, social networking sites were always considered as the windows to the real world, a virtual democracy, and of course a platform open to diverse views, suggestions and comments from possibly everyone. But ever wondered why this crystal clear world very recently has given you a jaded vision? Case in point being the Brexit referendum and the US presidential elections. What your social media timeline suggested and what the real world stated was a complete paradox. The culprits in this tale are social media algorithms, through which web companies filter the content that reaches your newsfeed basis your views and preferences, thus distorting reality and ensuring that your view of the world is basically your very small world. Ronak Shetty clicks on a tab that deserves your attention, given that most of us treat social media as our primary source of information.
Historic evidence suggests that the human race has always communicated in a far more superior manner than the rest. And with technology transcending beyond imagination in the 20th century, communications became unreal as it entered the virtual sphere with the birth of the internet. The advent of social media took communication and connectivity to a whole new level. Times have changed, and so has social media. It's no more just a channel to connect. It's earned the title of the virtual window to the real world. But alas, today's social media is providing users a skewed perspective of the world, painted with only their personal views and preferences. How? Now, social media is built on algorithms, which in the past would showcase news, updates and events on a chronological basis. But with changing times, these very algorithms are preference-based, which means only those articles, updates and blogs suiting your preferences reach your timeline, and the rest is conveniently filtered out.
There's this kind of shift in how information is flowing online, and it's invisible. And if we don't pay attention to it, it could be a real problem.
In fact, with recent reports stating that Facebook's trending news algorithm was intentionally hiding conservative news. And of course, two of the greatest social media predictions falling flat on its face.
Voters in the United Kingdom have voted to leave the European Union.
The President-elect of the United States of America, Donald Trump.
It became even clearer that algorithms that drive social networks are shifting the reality of our political systems. And quite evidently, it's not for the better.
What we're seeing is people on the political extremes, both right and left, their news sources tend to be much more homogeneous. And I think that's where the real problem is. And of course, in the United States, we've also seen more and more people migrating to the political extremes. It's really a problem for those people who are especially ideologically driven, and then they can create worlds, if you like, or at least information worlds, where their own views are never really put into question.
I mean, all these started as social networks, where actually you went there to, find out what your friends are speaking, people you're interested in are speaking. But more and more, all these companies have realized that their business model is to become, something somewhat akin to a media. They see themselves as media. And once it's about media, right, and they need control over what you see, so that they can monetize it through advertising, they can monetize it through paid posts. And in order to set the foundation for paid posts and advertising, it makes sense for them, from their point of view, that they show you what they think is relevant to you. And really, that's what it is. If Twitter and Facebook and Instagram could, just find other ways of making money, maybe they'll stay true to being social networks.
But how exactly do social media companies derive what kind of news stories and posts ought to be displayed on your timelines? The answer is a filter bubble, which is a result of a personalized search in which a website's algorithm selectively guesses what information a user would like to see. Bases the user's search history, past click behavior, type of computer, and location, thus limiting the topics that reach you and effectively isolating them in their own cultural or ideological bubbles. So how does this exactly help social media companies? It's simple. Feeling good derives engagement, thus boosting the time spent on a website, meaning more people will be motivated to stay online and fewer will drop out. Also helping advertisers effectively identify its target audience. But what social media users often tend to forget is that they are trapped in an echo chamber, hounded, surrounded and bombarded with only those stories that suit their palate, disconnecting them from the world at large.
I am very concerned, genuinely, about the algorithms of stories means that we get more myopic and more myopic.
Sure.
So I have a Facebook feed, obviously news feed, and I never see anything that's beyond what I believe in.
Exactly.
Rather than serendipity. So there's fake stories and controlling stories. I'm also concerned that in a world where people aren't used to academic exploration, that people don't ask fundamental questions anymore, so that the truth people see in so many characters what they believe.
Sure.
I think that's going to have a very damaging effect on democracy, because it actually will be about money in order who gets in, not about people having a point of view, because they won't have access to a point of view.
Be it Facebook, Instagram or Twitter, all social networking sites analyze data from how long you spent reading a post or an article that you clicked on, to your likes and comments, to assign rankings to future posts by sources you follow, to decide which content deserves to appear on your personal news feed. But social networking sites aren't the only ones doing so.
Google's doing it too. If I search for something and you search for something, even right now at the very same time, we may get very different search results. Even if you're logged out, one engineer told me, there are 57 signals that Google looks at. Everything from what kind of computer you're on, to what kind of browser you're using, to where you're located. And you know, the funny thing about this is that it's hard to see. You can't see how different your search results are from anyone else's. But a couple of weeks ago, I asked a bunch of friends to Google Egypt and to send me screenshots of what they got. Daniel didn't get anything about the protests in Egypt at all in his first page of Google results. Scott's results were full of them. And this was the big story of the day at that time. That's how different these results are becoming.
Now, along with algorithms, network effects and zero-cost publishing are enabling false theories to go viral, impacting the decision of policymakers and shaping public opinion, whether they are verified or not.
I think it's the onus of the publishers at this time to bring regulatory mechanisms. When you know it's faking news, two things they can definitely do. One is remove the fake news content. Now, one reason I'm assuming they don't do it is they would have millions of views for this or lakhs of shares, whatever. So they start feeling that, I'm going to lose these page views or whatever. Second is, if you cannot, for certain reasons, in certain kind of content, remove that, then you need to put a notification on that old content that this news was false. Here is the link to get the latest update.
But post-Brexit and the US presidential elections, social networking sites are finally ramping up their efforts to combat fake news. Case in point being the Fake News Alert Chrome extension launched post the US elections results, which warns readers when they arrive at a website known to produce fake news or hoaxes. In fact, very recently, Facebook even has launched a campaign to crack down fake news in France ahead of the country's presidential elections by tying up with around 8 media companies to fact-check and filter news articles that have been reported by users. So what does this tell you? Social media isn't quite your window to the real world. It's a mere reflection of your micro world, designed to make you feel good, but at a cost, isolating you from reality. All said and done, what does this mean for the world at large? And more importantly, for brands looking to leverage these mediums?
The lesson here is that if you want to be a brand that succeeds well in this social world, you have to become a newsmaker. People have to talk about you. People have to share stuff about you. You have to have your own news channel. So you actually have to become the publisher and not the advertiser on publishing. So I think the challenge here is for brands not just to figure out and manage in real time the kinds of communities that their advertising is going to, or the kinds of topics their advertising is going to be displayed on, but more importantly, to figure out how they can become newsmakers so that people follow them directly for the updates that they offer.
Social media may be an inherent and inseparable part of your life, but it's time to come to terms with the fact that social media is merely echoing your own views, not giving you a much needed visual of the real world. And if it is, it's distorting it. Burst that bubble. Because at the end of the day, you, the user, ought to be the final filter. Now, if your newsfeed suggests a link that you're not interested in, click on the Not Interested tab or report it as spam to avoid getting such updates in the future. Keep a close eye on the news source, and most importantly, be open to tapping on pages which are beyond your preferences to gain a more holistic picture of what the real world has to offer.
On that note, it's time to head into a quick break, but don't go anywhere, because on the other side, TBWA's president